Sam, streaming online, huge business, but does it turn into money for the artist in the same way that CDs and albums used to?
Not in the same way, I think. You would probably need to sell around 1,000 albums to make £1,000, something like that, or certainly for the label, and then the artist gets a smaller share of that. You probably need about 1 million streams on a service like Spotify to make the same amount of money. And that obviously changes with different deals. Sort of independent artists do a bit better because they have to give less to the label and things like that, but it's a much bigger gap.
I don't mind revealing my ignorance about Major Lazer and DJ Snake, but Major Lazer, behind them is Diplo, who's a massive DJ, big in EDM, electronic dance music. And is that the reason why this has done so well? Because America has finally, over the past 5 or so years, fallen in love with electronic dance music. Yeah,
I think it's a mixture of things. I mean, it was a fairly big track here. It sold quite well, but I think Spotify wasn't that big a service in America 5 years ago. It only launched in 2011 and has sort of grown since then. And this, I think, is one of the most played songs on American radio this year. So it's America falling in love with streaming as much as it is falling in love with dance music.
So what does this tell us about the way we listen to music these days? Because, you know, there are big albums being released at the moment. Adele's springs to mind. But do albums really translate anymore into, you know, big listening experiences?
Well, I think Adele is almost the exception that proves the rule.
Right.
I mean, she was the best-selling of any entertainment product, film, video game of the last 5 years, and I think it will be interesting to see whether she goes for this streaming model. Newer artists don't have a choice. You know, most young people who are listening to music, discovering new music, are just not buying records, and so they have to go for this streaming model, and it can be quite beneficial. You know, you might make around the same amount of money being streamed by a much larger group of people than you would selling an album to a few hundred very sort of enthusiastic fans.
But whereas, you know, people perhaps of the sort of the generation you and I are in are used to buying music and paying for a collection of songs loosely called an album, the younger generation now are not doing that so much. So how are artists going to make their money off that younger generation?
Well, it's a real mixture of things. I mean, they will make a little bit of money from streaming, but you do see much more artists doing things like writing for TV shows, getting big syncs, working with brands. The sort of old selling out idea that may have been popular, you know, in most of popular music is no longer an issue.